pew, 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 pew. I mean, blub, 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 blub. So will this be in full alpha guide? Hell no, of course not. I will not do an alpha guide and explain you everything. It's ridiculous. So if you have limited skills, you can get into a praxis. It's cheap, it does the job, you need 8 people. You will still need an Omega account for the relative warp in. I will also give you the fittings and everything in the comments. But you will need one skilled Omega pilot which will do the whole relative warp in stuff. Otherwise it doesn't work. And I also highly recommend do not multi-box. Because if you plume the ESS, you need to defend it. And you can't do that if you multi-box. It's horrible. It's complicated. Don't do it. Okay. Relative warp-ins. You can set this up. I made you a screen of how it looks like. So you have the warp-in squad. That's usually your EOS, your Odysseus, your linking ship, stuff like that. And then you have them in an 11 angle degree on the side. 10 to 15 kilometers in a kind of a bubble around the Stargate. You can get that set up in the first haven and move a little bit around. No worries, it's not that complicated. Once you have that, you warp that squad back to your post because you are crossing each other. Then you make the bookmarks for everybody. Next time you do that, you do the same thing. You warp the warper to the warp spot, you warp the praxises to the praxis, smart bombing stuff, and then you always warp with the warper to the haven. If you want to know if it's a rock haven, you start warping to the rock haven, you immediately cancel the warp, and if it's a rock haven, you will get a pop-up which says, oh, it's a Stargate, blah blah. That's a rock haven. If you don't get one, that's a gas haven. Doesn't work. Don't bother with that. Ignore them. Also, this is not your job. As a Smartbomb Praxis, you don't do that. That's the job of the warper. You as a Praxis, you press your smart bombs and you kill everything. Haven tend to spawn threats. If this should happen, then you just warp off. You bring in your cleaner or whatever you have to clean them, and then you clean the threat, and then you continue rating. So, you need around 4 rock havens in one system, and then you can blast through. If you have less rock havens, you will have some kind of waiting time. But it's still better than Ishtar rating, which you can't do because you're on alpha. Is there anything else you need to concern? Yes, you will have faction spawns, so you want to have these ships looted. You should also drop an MTU because the meta loot or the meta modules you get out of that, they are very nice and are good pricey. You can spare the salvage due to the Explo people are getting enough T1 salvage generated, so the prices are dropping, and it's actually not worth it sitting in the site because you blasting through a site in around 2.5 minutes depending on your setup. So if you do it for 10 minutes, you already have like 4 MTUs to drop, so you need to ask another account which does the MTU dropping. And then also the collecting, because you will end up with a lot of MTUs in the system. And if an MTU killer comes over, he will start combat probing them and then kill one after another, and then you will also lose another 10 mil per MTU, which we don't want to have. So, you have your 8 friends, you have the praxises, you probably have a POS or something, then you kind of already set up to run that. If you like it and you want to step up the ladder, then you can use any of the other kind of ships and go Omega, and then do it with Apocs navies, Machariels, or whatever you like, and run it in a 4-man what means 4-man? It's 5-man. It's 4-mans which do the smart bombing, and one of the warpers which give you the links to make you a little bit more beefy in the sides, because if you have the last wave, they will stick a little bit longer with the battleships, and then maybe it can hurt a little bit. And if you start plinging out a Machariel, which is a 1-bill battleship, then losing one of these ships hurts. Please be kind and fair. Other people are doing the same thing. You only can do that in havens, rock havens. So all the other sites in the system are not usable for you. I was looking into some kind of Stormbringer solution for Sanctums and Forsaken Hubs and stuff like that, but I'm still looking into that, and that's another story about what you do with zapping. So this is smart bombing or blasting, and then there is zapping. Is there anything else I need to explain? So we had the fitting, easy peasy. You start smart bombing. You stop smart bombing when the site is finished. You warp off if there's a threat. I mean, your warper warps you off if there's a threat, so easy peasy. There is the escalations, the domination spawns, easy peasy. You need 4 rock havens. I explained to you how you find the rock havens without warping to them with the cancel warp thingy. I explained you the relative format warping, which does an Omega account. As you can't multi-box alphas, that's the same thing. Yeah, you kind of tutti. I mean, if you want a deeper explanation, then you would need to join one of our Smartbomb Dojo classes and then experience it yourself. Otherwise, you can watch a little bit the video and see how in the background the stuff explodes and how we do that. I mean, if you bump on the Stargate, then you still can MGD off. Expect if you are an Alpha can't use the MGD. So if you're on Omega, you can fit an MGD on it, and then you can just swap one of the explosive Hardeners in the bottom to another cap recharger. But I also recommend that you don't just copy paste my fittings. Try to gamble with them around, try to understand why it is fitted in this specific way, why it is tanking in explosive with explosive smart bombs, why it is cap stable, and also consider that you start blooming the ESS, which means you need to have some PvP ships. The strongest PvP ship in the ESS is the Logi. If you bring 4 Guardians, 5 Guardians, you can already count on 2 fingers how many DPS ships the enemy needs, and he needs kind of special noiting ships, like not 1 curse. You need more curses than 1 to bother a Guardian cap chain. And then you can start sprinkle in DPS ships and more, and then you're fine. So if there's somebody coming with a Loki and a Lachesis or something, and you just warp in 4 Guardians and then 1 DPS ship, fine. I mean, you could even go and unfit the sensor booster of the Guardian and put a damp in it, so you're just damping the other guy out, so he can't do his damping stuff, because you have 4 Guardians or 5 which damping back. Or Evor, like tracking disruption, whatever. So, I think you are set. If you want to learn more about that, then request in the comments a dojo class for smart bombing, and we will do one. Then you can sniff some smart bombing air. Be kind and gentle if other people are so smart bombing in the system. Usually, if you only have 4 rock havens, that's 1 group. Doesn't work with more. Then one of the groups need to wait all the time, because the respawning rate is not fast enough for 2 groups. So, this is Kane Carnifex with smart bombing, alpha smart bombing. I hope you're not that scammed about the 800 mil stuff like that, because it's the 800 mil by the Toons in 1 hour and stuff like that. So you do like 20 million ticks or something. And it's about the group activity. You are chatting together, you're talking about, you together watching about the intel, and 8 people see a threat much faster than just 1 guy. And if some of your accounts are bumping off the gate, if you multi-box, it can happen that you don't see that, and then your Machariel dies, and then you cry because you just lost a 3-bill ship, blah blah blah, usual stuff. Fly safe, happy blasting.